Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's gratifying to see so many of you staying back for the last session. I hope we can reciprocate by giving you a very interesting and lively session. I think with speakers, the panelists here, you won't be disappointed because you have Steve Chia.
I'm not sure if that's a compliment somehow, yeah, but thanks.
The star of Talking Point. And Patrick there. Patrick there is a man of many achievements. Too much to elaborate here because he has done many things. And Joy May herself has been in corporate and consultancy and now president of the Institute of Public Relations. I myself run a marketing communications company for 32 years. So I've done a lot of communications. And I was told by the fellow panelists that the sessions on the whole has not been spicy enough, too mundane. So I'm going to throw away some of the mundane questions I prepared and start with the more provocative ones. So the first question I'm going to ask is, how many of you will accept bad money? Money for donations from businesses whose revenue come from fossil fuels, cigarettes, alcohol, and maybe gambling. How many of you here in the room will accept the money with a show of hands?
But it's still legal money. You're not talking about dirty money.
Yeah,
it's still legal, right? Yeah.
Wow. But we don't have the chance to go around with the mic and ask everybody, what's your reason?
Yeah, which charity are you from?
Any volunteer who wants to stand up and say, I will give you my reason. Anyone. There's no price. Anybody wants to say, I will accept because, for whatever the reason.
They just want the money, that's all.
But it's legal money, right?
Yeah,
it's not dirty money. So why not? And it goes towards a good cause, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, since they can't answer, we'll throw that back to them. Okay, would you, any one of you accept this kind of money?
Yeah, I said I would. I mean, I think it's still a legitimate business, so it's not dirty money like money laundering. And even then, okay, that would be a different debate, but yeah, I think as long as it's coming from legitimate sources and if it can be put towards a good use, and as long as you can justify why you're taking the money, you've checked, make sure it's, you know, or it's credible where it's come from, then I see no reason why you should turn that money down.
Okay, that's one view. Patrick?
I humbly beg to differ. I want to answer this question by give you some more questions to think about. And this is something that we do in our company. I tell my staff, and all my staff must memorize 5 questions. Because I won't be there for them. They have to make their own decision one way or another. The first question, is it legal? If it's not legal, don't do. Second question, is it ethical? Does it meet community standards and quality? If it's not ethical, don't do. The third question, is it honorable? Does it enhance your branding, your image, your reputation? The fourth question, is it moral? Can you do it and then face your daughters and tell your daughters, I've got 2 daughters by the way, that you have done this. If Channel News Asia put up the news, I'll be proud to say, you know, this is your father, you know. And the last question, is it environmental friendly? So I give an example of a real life story, not so much in my charity, but in my company. We were given a potential sponsorship by one of the companies in the vice industry, specifically in the beer industry, which is pretty amoral for many people. And so we seek counseling, and a lot of the people tell us, if it's the devil's money, take it, use it for angelic work. But at the end of the day, we search our soul and say, is it honorable? By doing this, does it help us in our reputation, our branding, our image? So long story short, it's a 7-figure sponsorship. We walk away from it and have no regret walking away from it. I'm the president of Singapore Gymnastics. If ever we are posed with the same issue, we will walk away from it because we deal with children. We talk about being fit, strong, and healthy. and we want to be able to stand on high moral ground and be exemplary not only to our community but to the region, which is part of our mission and vision and value statement. Thank you.
Were you challenged on that? Were those under the association, did they question why you were not taking the sponsorship?
The story that I mentioned is not so much about my charity, my association. It was more for the company that I was involved in, or the group of company I was involved in. Of course, we had our own internal deliberation, and we don't know what we don't know, and what we don't know is far, far more than what we know. So we actually seek wise counsel, right? And so after putting all the various views together, we came back to a table with our staff, and we decided we will not take the money, and we are very happy we didn't take the money. We're still very proud that we didn't take the money. Our company continued to grow. Not because of that, but because we have lived by our own value statement. But if you choose to live by a different value statement, frankly, I will accept you. I will still love you. I still want your money also, yeah.
But wait, before John May answers, because even dirty money is still good money, as Steve says, but they can be put to good use. So assuming we give you the 1 million, the beer company give it, and they have the condition, build a gymnastic company, would you still turn them down? Because this academy is going to produce more champions for you.
I mean, we ask ourselves these five questions, right? Is legal, is ethical, is moral, is environment, I don't know whether it's environmental friendly. I assume it's environmental friendly because they are brainwashed by many people, but we just couldn't answer the question, is it honorable? Does it enhance our branding, our image, our reputation? Can we be proud that we've taken this money? And because we were running events, it was an educational event, and it was an educational event that teaches people how to live a good life, how to be able to give back to society, how to be able to be a responsible citizen. We felt that at a point in time, based on this test, we cannot face our own soul and our own conscience and take the money. But that is our decision. We are very proud of the decision. Like I say, you have your own yardstick. If you decide to take the money, I will still accept you and love you. I still want to look for your donation too, yeah.
Okay. John May.
Okay, so I think I'll tell you a story. I'm not sure whether it's a true story, but I think it is. It happened over 30 years ago. This charity, I shall not name names. Someone walked into the charity. This was before your all this technology. So he came in with a bag and left it with the reception and said, "This is for the Salvation Army." Oops, I mentioned the name. Yeah. But anyway, so you know, it was Salvation Army. And so the receptionist was like, "Oh, okay, thank you, sir," and took the bag and then went upstairs. And when they opened the bag, it was cash, close to $1 million of cash. So they counted the money and said, "Okay, this seems to be a donation. The guy has gone off. There's no way we're going to trace him." And they took the money. They bank it in and continued the work. So what does this story tell us? Things happen on a day-to-day basis. So fast forward to today, you have the billions of dollars that came in through the money launderers. And in good faith, in all innocence, what you don't know is what you don't know. You take in the money. So what do? What is the recourse? So I guess 30 years ago, if at that time they wanted to trace and hunt down the guy and say, "Hey, where this money come from?" they could have done. So, but they didn't. There was no way. So for them is to just proceed, take the money in good faith, and do the work they are meant to do. So I think for today, the context of today is, yes, what you don't know, you really don't know. But when you do know, what do you need to do about it? And there are now guidelines from the Commission of Charities. I think the council also are providing guidelines, and the consultancies are also being sensitized to what are things that you need to look out for. So there is help, there is advisory, and people that you can look to try and see what you can do about what has happened.
Okay, that sounds good. Earlier on, I mentioned the various categories where dirty money is included, and I mentioned gambling. So there's a question that came in. Is Singapore Pools considered moral when they donate money? Would you take money from Singapore Pools?
How, Patrick?
First of all, I must declare my interest. For more than 10 years, I serve as the chairman or co-chairman of the Responsible Gambling Forum. And as part of, my committee is quite a big committee that comprises of people who are pro-gambling, anti-gambling, neutral on gambling, people who think it's religiously wrong, people who think that, hey, this is something good for society. My personal opinion is gambling is wrong. I've seen lives being destroyed. I've seen families gone down the tube. Personally, on a personal basis, I wouldn't touch the money. But however, if I am the president of Singapore Gymnastics and Singapore Tote Board wants to give me the money, I will recluse myself from the decision because of my personal opinion. And I will leave it to the board to decide whether they want to take the money. Yeah.
So you're passing the buck, lah.
He's saying he cannot do it, but he doesn't mind if someone else does it. Sounds like it.
But at the end of the day, like I mentioned, we all wear different hats in our life, right? We all have a religious position. I do have a religious position. I want to live by my own conscience, by my own faith. But having said that, as I mentioned for the earlier question, I will not stop people from exercising their own right, their own obligation. And I am not the sole owner of my own charity. So I have to bear that in mind. I can lead them, I can manage them, I have to lead them, I have to manage them. But finally, it is a collective decision. It's a shared leadership that we always want to build. And that's the reason why I say, let's make a collective decision on this. I embrace the differences. I accept the diversity. I'm prepared to go along with a different opinion as long as it's not immoral, unethical, bad for my image, my charity's image, and is something that is immoral or is bad for the environment. Then I will stand my ground.
I think it's also to realize and to accept the fact that our social service sector is unique. Almost everyone accepts donation from Tote Board. They are structured that way. The arts organizations do it, the educational organization, everyone does it, So whether it's right or wrong, I think it's something that we need to keep in focus. But at the end of the day, we are in this ecosystem, this structure, where, yes, the funding, it comes from the Tote Board, and a lot of charities depend on it. And I don't think there's a need to guilt trip anyone into saying you shouldn't be doing this, right? Yeah.
So there were a few questions. Sorry, there were a few questions related to this, asking about taking money from Tote Board, Yeah. So, May, you have already touched on it. Okay, Steve?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think fair enough. Patrick, you have every right to have your own personal view and to declare it and stand firm. I think that is all well and good, and to recuse yourself from that as well. But, first of all, we must clarify that dirty money, gambling money, is not dirty money. They're not the same thing. Dirty money is illegal, as in money laundering, right? Which you've all seen in recent cases. And if you haven't, then you should go watch this TV show called Talking Point, which is quite good. Because we did an episode about it. But I think it's again in good conscience. If you've done your KYC, you've done your checks, the money came in, you did everything you should do, you asked the right questions, and then you use the money. I don't think it's any fault of the charity. And I think that's where I know some of you, those who did take money, are a bit stuck now, not sure, knowing what to do. They've left it in a corner, waiting for the government to say maybe got to give it back. But I think the COC, Commission of Charities, basically has some guidelines on terrorism financing and money laundering. But basically it tells you, ask the right questions. And if you did everything you should do to try and find out where it's from, and then the money still came in after all those passed with flying colors, then I think it's no fault of yours. So, but don't say I say lah, just spend it quickly so that it'll be gone,
So I think to say gambling money is not dirty money makes it look like it's a binary decision, it's a black and white decision. But I think there are multiple dimensions to this whole thing about gambling, right? It depends. So in the Singapore context, we have this thing called problem gambling, and then recreational gambling. So they have a taxonomy of how you want to get people involved with gambling. So on that basis, I'm in a grassroots organization. I used to be a CGC chairman. If I bring you to a family and I tell you how this family have been sucked into a particular type of gambling, like a privately run club that runs a jackpot machine, and they do everything they can to attract you in, then The question I want to ask you is this:
Yeah.
would you not consider this
No,
dirty money?
Patrick, I agree. I have the same view that I don't endorse or promote, encourage gambling. I'm just saying in terms of when we look at it from a secular point of view as a government legislation, it is not dirty money in that sense. That's all I'm saying.
But to say gambling money is not dirty money,
It can be.
It's
Can
too
be.
binary
There is a grey area.
a decision.
There
yeah.
is a grey area. I agree.
So now we have another question that came in. This morning, the value of transparency was shared. How can we balance transparency with a level of prudence, or how much to share when communicating with shareholders? Transparency.
So can
and
you overshare? Are they asking whether you can overshare?
No,
I mean,
because you got to be transparent, but at the same time you want to be prudent about it. Whether you take and then how do you balance with transparency? Take with conscience or without conscience,
Still within the context of taking money
Whatever
from.
money,
okay.
whatever kind of money came in, legitimate, or illegitimate kind of money.
I think being transparent doesn't mean you're being stupid. I think being transparent means you must know what you need to declare to your stakeholders and what you shouldn't declare to your stakeholders. So if we the board decides, whether to take a gambling money or not gambling money, or the money from the beer industry or not from beer industry, and we all, like in a shared leadership, we all have voted to take the money, then I think when we open the door, we all have to close rank and tell our stakeholders, this is why we take the money, this is how we make the decision, and this is how the money is being put in very good use. I think if you do anything otherwise, and there will be a bit of a challenge. So I think if you drill a bit deeper, then you want to be able to know what does accountability mean. It's not just one blanket statement. What does transparency means? What can you declare? What should you be transparent about? What should be kept within the discussion within the group itself?
I'm very positive about the social service sector. I think charity units have nothing to hide. You guys, of all organizations in the world, you guys have nothing to hide. You're doing good work, everything is transparent, everything is actually on your website. So the only time where you are probably caught off guard is when something out of the ordinary happens and you're not ready. So it's not so much of transparency, it's that you're not ready with the information. And if the media comes knocking, and said, what's going on, what are you doing about it? That's where there's a lot of anxiety and you're going like, okay, do I look like I'm hiding something? But the truth of the matter, simply on the ground, is that you are not ready, right? So I think at the end of the day is to be ready, right? To look at what's happening around the world. I think earlier on the panel earlier, we were talking about being conscious beyond our own strategy, beyond the work that we do, is to understand what's going on around the world and to be prepared for it. When a curveball comes, at least you are ready with your holding statement, and when you do not know, you say you don't know, you get back, right? So I would say you're not under siege all the time to be transparent. I think if we have that mentality, we are petrified, we can't move, right? So I think none of you in here have anything to hide. If there's anything, it's that you don't know that something is going on, but when you do know, I'm sure you'll do something about it.
So, so John May, you're moving into the area of handling a crisis. So there's a question that came in, but the first part, Steve, I won't read about it because you have an admirer out there, but I'm not sure that person want to be identified. But the question they raise is, what are the key strategies to handling a PR crisis, particularly these days regarding money laundering? And related to that, I want to raise a question, because these recent cases, how many of your organization have a procedure how to handle money laundering scandals? So, gentlemen, over to you for your formula.
What gentlemen? I thought it's ladies first.
Anyone, okay, anyone.
first you should try and be handsome, that helps.
When you face the media, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, let's be transparent. Who asked that
no,
question?
no.
I want to know who.
I think we let the handsome guy answer all the questions.
Let me see if my looks will help me in this answer. I think no. I mean, this is part of something we do for media training as well with some companies in terms of crisis management. You want to be prepared for a situation, and this is one of those where a curveball is thrown at your way. How do you respond? How do you react to it? I think there isn't a template answer because it will really differ depending on the situation, the type of company you are, the people you have. But again, it's about sort of being ready, and this is something that we're finding many in Singapore. We're not so used to it. We're not able to confront issues when they occur because we don't know how to deal with it. We don't have a bit of that flair. I always joke, I used to have some people come in and do interviews on the show, and it'd be a great session, lots of laughter, and we'll have a good time, and then they'll leave, and then I'll be like, not much content, huh? Yeah. It's what we call NATO, no action talk only. But the Americans are very good at doing that. So they put up a good show, and you almost forget about what the issue actually is. So there is some merit to that, because what you are trying to do in a crisis is actually distract to a certain extent and turn the attention to something else. So I would say, basically a strategy is to have something in place in the first place. Whether it's foolproof or not, it's very hard to say. But if you accept that you need to have a strategy in place in the first place, I think that's a good step already.
Jomei, you agree with that? Or you should ask him to go and take media training.
We also have the Singapore Media Academy where you can go.
Okay, so now a more ordinary or mundane question. This person asks, can the panel share how your communication strategies have strengthened your I'm trying to read here. Your stakeholders, engagement. I think Patrick, in the course of the pre-seminar discussion, I think you display a long list of activities you did, which I think did the Gymnast Singapore proud. Maybe you can share with the audience.
I think, first of all, we have to understand that it is humans that make up your organization. It's the people in your organization that make your organization work. So as far as communication is concerned, I'm sure these are three world-class experts here. I will share with you my perspective. Let me pose 3 dimensions of things that we all should look at. Number one is you have to decide between the balance of formal communication, informal communication. I think all the experts are very good at telling us what we need to do, set up website, put up social media. Those are the formal communication. But as far as I'm concerned, it is informal communication that connects us better to our stakeholders, build better bridges and bonds. Why do I say that? Because I wrote a book about the future of the global economy, and I think we all know this. The world is becoming more and more diverse and more divided. And because of the collapse of the information floats, because of AI and the internet, people are a lot more knowledgeable and a lot more sophisticated. And generally, people are becoming more and more demanding, especially in Singapore. So I think it's important for you and I, who are in the business of communication, to go to the ground and build up the bonding. People don't care what you know, as they say, until they know how much you care. So I actually congratulated the previous moderator, Andrew Liu, who suddenly threw the question back to the floor. Because at the end of the day, you have to go to the ground and listen to the ground. The second thing that I want you to consider is balancing between being proactive and reactive. I think a lot of time our communication is very reactive. We decide we want to put up the usual website, the emails, the newsletter, and so on and so forth. But those are to me, very reactive tools. Do you actually do enough survey, not just once in a year? Do you do survey after every event? Do you bring people out for a coffee talk? Do you have members get together on both a formal basis, informal basis, and then find out from them what is their heartbeat, what do they care about, what are they interested in doing? Okay, and the third thing is, how pragmatic or dogmatic you are. I think most of the tools that we know that we learn from Communication 101, tend to be very dogmatic. We follow the textbook. We do what a consultant tell us. But is this practical enough? Let me give you an example. I think at the end of the day, we all need to know that we are dealing with humans. So do you deal with humans based on the need that you want to fulfill, or do you see them as human with total needs? I think the world is changing. People want to know you care for them as a human, not because, they are donors, you want their money, and therefore you keep selling them because at the back of your mind there's a hidden agenda. People are not stupid, they know. But when they know you truly care for them as a human, then you take your communication to a totally different level altogether. Another thing to consider is whether you are dealing with the current needs or the future needs. So the world is changing very, very fast. Are you thinking about what's coming next, what's coming after, what's coming next? And then get your communication strategy ready to prepare them for the new world or the new era or the future that they are in. So the two words I want to put forth to everybody that you probably have heard before is customerization and customization. How do you communicate to them in a way that make them feel they are the focus of your communication strategy? How do you not only make your communication relevant and useful, but present them in such a way that they understand from their frame of mind, basically? And I think that's something that we need to consider. I don't have the answers in the new world to come. Thanks.
Steve, you got
just want to add on what Patrick said, because I think it's very important that human touch, that human relationship, the personalization is key. I mean, for many charities or many organizations, people follow people. While they want a good brand company, they also want to follow people. Have you been following, the OpenAI CEO got fired? Have you heard about that? And he's gone to Microsoft. And at OpenAI, they said, we want to go too. 85% of the company said, we want to quit too because we want to follow this guy. So it can be very powerful. But at the same time, I think we all need to stay relevant. One of the challenges we have in the media industry is how to stay woke. So I'm trying to stay woke by using words like woke, but in other words, how do you connect? Because we know our viewers have changed a lot. Who goes home to watch TV? How many of you say, tomorrow night, 9:30 p.m., I'm going to turn on the TV and watch a show? Yeah, maybe, okay, there are like one person in the room, two people in the room. Most of us just take out our devices as and when we want to watch it, right? So we've had to change the way we engage our viewers. We've had to change the way we format our programs. We used to take a long show, cut out 2 minutes, put it on Facebook. It didn't work. The format wasn't the same. It didn't carry across the same message. So we've had to customize and create content specifically for the different platforms. You got to know who's on Instagram, who's on TikTok, who's on Facebook. So in that way, the same thing applies in the charity sector. I think if you are wanting to appeal to a certain demographic, they may not be donors. These could be the people you want to engage, the beneficiaries as well. You got to speak to them in their language. And I think that is a challenge because many of us who tend to be working in the organizations tend to be older, and you look at it in a different perspective. So I would just challenge and encourage everyone, because it's hard, but to not always kind of feel like we know it, but to be willing to speak to that very young person in the room who says, have you heard of Lemon8? Have you heard of Lemon8? I just learned about it a week ago. It's another social media platform. So it changes so quickly in the sense that I think very often our version of long-term planning sometimes gets disrupted a lot along the way. I tell my kids, I don't know what are the jobs of the future. Many of the things you're studying in school now, you won't need to know that knowledge because you can just, AI will give you all the information, but how do you manage the tools that you have? And how do you make the people that work in your organization relate to the tools that you have to then produce the outcomes that you need? I think that is going to be challenging.
Okay, so Jordan May, how do you get more members and donors for IPRS?
I think all strategy is built on the story, right? You've got to hang that strategy on something, and I think for charity units is the story, right? What is your organization? What is your mission? What is your vision? So without a vision, people perish. People just drop off. They don't concentrate on what you're saying. But if you have a vision, you have a story, and you have a direction, I think all your strategy will just fall in line. Easier, because you're showing people this is where we are going, join me and let's go. and you find that, oh, okay, this resonates with me, I will. Again, an example from what I did for the Salvation Army. There was back in the day, you send these direct mailers, and we all know that the image is very important. Is that picture? If it grabs you, chances are you won't throw it, that direct mailer in the bin. So what we did was we used. How many of you have seen or used a national rice cooker, the old-fashioned one? Yeah. Okay. So we used that image, and we asked our donors to help us put food on the table, because that's what we do. Honestly, sincerely, so that's what we do. And that mailer with that image gave us one of our highest donation of all time. It was just a simple message. So I think strategy aside is that story that you're trying to tell, whether it's to your donors, to your staff. People don't mind you asking them to go and run to someplace and touch the tree and come back, but they want to know why. And if you can give them that reason, give them that vision, I think the battle is quite won.
So I think making the connection, and if I may add in my years of work, is that you must show the benefit to the stakeholders. Once they can perceive that whatever you do benefits them, I think they will respond well. Okay, so there's another question. Should charity invest in paid advertising? Unlike profit-driven organizations, stakeholders such as donors may not accept charities spending their contributions on advertising versus on beneficiaries. I don't know whether LPRS or Gymnast Singapore or any of organizations here spend money on paid advertising.
Actually, can I ask, any of you here in the room have a full-time person for fundraising? Several, right? So some organizations do. And I think sometimes there's a debate, should we be spending money to raise money, right? But I think in this day and age, you have to. There's so much competition out there. You have to play that game in that sense. And I think if you can justify the investment, which may be coming in the form of advertising to get the word out, and if it does have enough returns, then I see no reason why you shouldn't be spending the money. At the end of the day, and there's that whole 70-30 rule when you do fundraising, right? I mean, you organize an event. So as long as I guess you bring back more than you spend, then to me it makes sense.
Well, in the old days, there were companies out there going out to canvas for donation, and you were paid a certain percentage. A practice not many people approved. Some frowned upon it, but some accepted it. So it's still an open question here. Okay, I have another question this time, moving away from money laundering, but this is more maybe because of the incident, more appropriate for Patrick to kick off first. Over the years, NSAs have been in the news, sports organizations, sports association, where coaches have sexually abused their athletes. The biggest scandal, coincidentally, was the USA Gymnastics, where more than 500 gymnasts, mostly minors, were assaulted for 2 decades since 1990s by gym owners, coaches, staff working for gymnastics programs across USA. This wasn't discovered until quite recently. Now, this hasn't happened in Singapore, but Patrick, if you were in their shoes, or if there's one case occurring in Singapore, what would you do? Because early on somebody talked about crisis management.
First of all, I have to say that when we read the news, we were really heartbroken because what happened elsewhere inevitably will affect all of us because we're all part of the interconnected world. I want to say, first of all, we have zero tolerance against any abuse, including sexual abuse. And so Singapore Gymnastics has been established since 2003, and I'm very proud to say in the last 20 years, we don't have such cases. And so in my small little mindset, I created what I call a CARE framework. First of all, culture. I'm sure you have heard this saying, culture eats strategies for lunch. With due respect to the previous speaker, if you get your culture right, even if your strategy is not optimal, you still get good results. But if your culture is wrong, you can apply the best strategies. You may not have the most optimal results, basically. So we were very strong in as far as making sure that all our athletes, including all our other stakeholders, are protected to the highest level. A is for awareness. So one of the things that we do at least once a year, if not on a regular basis, we mapped out all our risks and potential risks and liability on a universal level. And we review them at least, I know at least once every year we do a very, very thorough review of all the potential risks and liability and ask them for response. How do you respond, like we mentioned just now, when there is a crisis? And not just how to respond, but actually practice the response. So I give an example, MRT case, when the train break down, there were people who broke the window, you remember? And then I spoke to my friend, he said they shouldn't break the window because there could be toxic gases outside. They should be sitting in the train under the heat. If they break the window, they could be dead because of the poisonous gas. So this is a case of you know what to do and you have it in your risk management system, but you never practice the people thoroughly enough to make sure when the tire hit the road, you know how to implement it carefully. E is for evaluation. So we have safeguarding officer at every level. We make sure that our coaches are very well trained. We make sure they are not put in a vulnerable position. We make sure there's strong whistleblowing policy. We make sure we monitor every one of our activity. But more importantly, we review them constantly and improve them. So if you take a CARE framework, that means you build the culture, you're aware of all the potential dangers, you have proper response, and you practice those proper response, and you continually evaluate, review, and improve your processes, then I think you will not put your organization into any of these risk. Thank you.
Toby, you want to add?
Okay, so I'm the storyteller, right? Tell you another story. So this children's organization, okay. So the abuse happened quite unexpectedly. It wasn't any of the staff, it was the bus driver who was responsible for ferrying the kid from the center back home. And no one had an idea, no one checked. He had priors, he was jailed before. But those were the days before you actually implement the system where you actually check. You know, the due diligence probably wasn't good. So it was quite a bad situation. So but fast forward to today, what are we doing in terms of risk management? You know, do we do our due diligence? Is that our top priority in our organization? Everyone has their antenna up. There's a process of whistleblowing, there's a process of feedback, you know, if you sense that something is wrong. But at the end of the day is to have that courage to do something about it. I think that's important.
That's good.
Now, just add on that, I think sometimes it is difficult for charities, especially the smaller ones, where you may not have the resources, but try and implement a policy, a template in a way that helps keep you safe. I'll give you an example. Let's say your charity deals a lot with young children. Do you know people have been accused before when they take photos that their hands have wandered and gone elsewhere? I mean, some politicians have got this before. So there was once this kids group. Have you heard of the Wiggles? Yeah. Like high five and the Wiggles. And you know in their photos, they're always doing this. You know why? So that you can never accuse them of their hands having wandered to abuse a child or touch a child inappropriately. So sometimes simple things that if we implement as the norm in the way we operate can save you a lot of headaches later on.
I want to tell a story with regard to what Steve just mentioned. I always believe that anything can go wrong, make sure it doesn't go wrong. So if you go to my Facebook, you see any of my photo images, you always see me put up my hand like this. And the reason is because when my daughter came of age, and they were very, very sensitive where the father put their hand, and I put it up to assure her that your father didn't put his hand on any woman accidentally or deliberately.
So it doesn't mean the place was good or the event was good, like just.
Steve is very good.
So today we have a lot of stories. So anybody in the audience want to tell us an interesting story?
please.
Anybody? Got any stories to tell us? Raise your hand. We'll pass the mic to you. No? So John May, you have to continue telling stories. Okay, so there is another question. A bit abstract, so see how you all tackle this one. How do we manage communications well when this has become a politically correct world? There are multiple landmines with fault lines in society, and there's a risk of being cancelled, meaning whatever you do, someone is going to slam you somewhere. How are you going to handle this, gentleman and lady?
Yeah, it's a very difficult one. I mean, you've probably heard of the multiplier effect. And I've just been doing some research for a talk that I'm supposed to give, and I've termed it the digital multiplier effect. One tweet, one post on Instagram, and the repercussions can be enormous. Ronaldo, how many followers does he have on IG? How many of you can guess? How many? Millions, yeah. Over 600 million. Other celebrities like Selena Gomez, The Rock, over 300, 400 million. One post. That's more than several countries combined. That's how they reach out to people. So you imagine, the repercussions can be serious. And I think that's where, I'm very old school in the way that when I put anything on social media, I highly curate what I put on because I'm concerned about the consequences. Not so much for the younger generation, which has pros and cons, but I think the more we understand about the geopolitics, and no matter what we say, we can't help it, but everything does affect everything else, everything, everywhere, all at once. What's that movie, right? But essentially, yeah, so I think it's more, we have to be very careful in how we communicate. We shouldn't stop, but we just have to ask ourselves that when I say this, I must expect certain responses. Some will be good, some will be bad, some will say, why did you do this? And as long as you can, with good conscience, justify your reasoning for it, you have enough to explain why, then I would say go ahead. Don't be afraid to post something out there, but just expect and know that there will be consequences.
Any more to add? If not, we go to add.
I think it's just maybe a very practical consideration. When you send out something in words, always check. Scrub your press release, scrub your post, scrub it so clean as you can, that you're untouchable. I think we need to try. So you stay away from talking about age, religion, politics, weight, So these are the things that it's just don't go there, right? So I think it's just common sense when you put out something and that is not use trigger words, not say things that would come back to bite you, So I think we are mature enough at this level, and even those who are younger than us, in their 20s or 30s doing your comms, it is to really put on your thinking hat and look at something 3 times, 4 times before it gets sent out.
For me, I choose to believe that what I don't know is far more than what I know, and the world is changing very, very fast. Don't assume that what you know is what the world wants. Let me give you a simple example. Even before we talk about how do you respond if you trip into a minefield, do you know what could be a potential minefield? Let me give you an example. How many of you here use TikTok for your charity, for your work? How many of you? So let me give you some statistics. October last month, there are 2.41 million users of TikTok in Singapore. This is 44% of internet users. So you cannot not know what is happening in the TikTok world, because the TikTok world is shaping and influencing the mindset of your stakeholders. And they could also be your potential donors, supporters, participants in whatever activities you are doing. So we need to go out there and find out and know what's going on so that you will not be caught in a minefield. Thanks.
Okay. The next question is, would your decision on taking money be different if you are not expected to publicize the donor's cause? Maybe the person who put this question maybe should be publicize the donor's publicity, not cause, right?
I don't think so. I see it as you would still want to know where the money is coming from and whether it comes with, yeah, again, taking it in good conscience. I think whether the donor wants to reveal why they're giving it, who they are and all that is almost irrelevant.
Yeah, because I think the recipient would like to publicize it. You take the Straits Times Pocket Fund, they publicize the donation from the donor, hoping to get more people to donate. So publicity is good.
I think it's better to decide that there is no more secret left in this world, which means you have to assume that whatever you do, somebody will know, somebody will find out. Now, that does not mean that you must tell them everything, but at least you know that if this information leak out, you are ready to respond to it, basically. So I don't think we all can live behind in secrecy and then think that the world will never know. I think you know when Mark Zuckerberg was interviewed by the Select Committee in America, and one of the questions posed to him was, do you know if I WhatsApp my friend? And he said, not only I know when you call your friend, I have humans listening to your conversation. Humans are listening to you. How many of you use WhatsApp to call your friend or still using Singtel or M1 and stuff? How many of you using WhatsApp? So take it from me, from Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, they are listening to your WhatsApp conversation. There's no more secret. If you want to have secret, use Pigeon to send messages, you know.
I mean, Google Home also listen to your conversation at home.
Yeah, I think the question is a very practical one. Again, it's some donors say, I give you $10, but I want you to publicize. Some just don't. But maybe to put do a plug for the Commission of Charities. So even if the donors don't need publicity, the Commission of Charities will know what you're doing, and the Charity Council will come after you as well, I think. So it's no such thing as there's no publicity. There is that transparency. People will know that there's this transaction.
I think just to be clear, not publicity is different. Transparency means you still need to know where the money is coming from and have it carefully logged somewhere, right? It's just that you don't shout out and say, hey, I got 10,000 from this guy, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, coming back to this Charity Council and etc. There's a revised code of governance for charities and institutions of a public character, consultations with 134 charities coming into effect on 1st January. With 6 principles under the code, charities are registered to submit a governance evaluation checklist. Is your organization ready to observe or implement this? Will you be able to submit a governance evaluation checklist? I think it's a tall order, but it's interesting to find out all the organizations here ready for it. A show of hands, are you all preparing for it?
No, I don't think.
1st January is coming.
Seem to know what it is.
Yeah, I think, okay, I feel like since I'm here representing the Charity Council, I need to... yes, greater governance. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what COC wants, right? I mean, we're trying to make it such that at the end of the day, when you donate money to a cause, it's going to real work. It's going somewhere meaningful. It's actually being used properly. That is really the moral of the story, so to speak. I think all these tools along the way are to help you get there. Sometimes it does feel like bureaucracy, and to some extent it is, but while some charities are very well run on their own, there are many others that need a lot more support. So sometimes these guidelines are there to say, let me help you, let me make it easy for you. Here's a checklist, just do these 10 things. If you can tick them off, you're halfway there. So I think it shouldn't be looked at as a burden, and by no means is the Charity Council wanting to come and penalize you for not doing it, but it really is a tool to help guide you in a way to proper manage the organization. I think that's really the moral behind it. So you may not, don't worry if you're not ready now, and Okay, again, don't say I say, but I mean, I seriously doubt we're going to come out and knock on your door. I mean, you may get a call from Desmond saying, hey, but otherwise.
I'm actually debating in my mind whether I should answer this question because it will sound like I'm tooting my horn, right? Singapore Gymnastics is an IPC registered charity. We are very rigorous in terms of meeting all the requirements, whether it's the current or even the future requirements. So just to let you know, there is an award ceremony tonight, and we are one of the few association that has won the Charity Transparency Award. Yeah.
Hey, actually,
So please donate to us. Your money is safe. Yeah. Thank you.
Now, you want to put up your QR code now?
so it's not fair that Patrick made a plug for gymnastics. Steve made a plug for Money Mine.
Wrong show,
Talking Point.
Yeah.
so we should ask Job May to publicize the IPRS. Yeah?
Okay, on the charity code, so what the IPRS has done is we have worked with the Center for Non-Profit Leadership. So we have come up with a toolkit for you. So if you're confronted with the code, there's a toolkit that we prepare all for you, so you know what to do and you can tick the boxes, because it's the media communications toolkit that comes with all kinds of samples, all kinds of basic strategy for engaging the media, engaging the community. So that's IPRS gift to the charity unit. So the NCO Public Relations was established in 1970. It's a long time. And it started because old guards like Bo Tiong here, they decided to band together and say, I think we need to help each other in the industry. So they registered a society and they were there for each other. I think it's a very similar story to how charity units started. You see a need, you come together, you do something about it. So it's been 50 over years. We represent PR and communications professionals. I'm a retired person, young senior, and I had a long career in PR and comms, and now I'm just giving back to the institute. Yeah.
Okay, good. So actually just now we talk about scrutinizing donations, whether it's tainted or not. Many small organizations, many of you are here, they don't have the resources to do it. So, Steve, as representative of the Charity Council, what advice can you give them how to screen donations that are dubious?
I don't think there's any, I mean, in the guidelines that they give out, really it's again about asking questions first. Trying your best to find out where the money came from. You say you don't have the resources, but sometimes it's just a phone call, speaking to the person, interviewing them, maybe going online, looking at their LinkedIn account, things which you can do quite easily. And sometimes those will already raise certain alarm bells in your head. So I think it's not meant to be an onerous task, but it's just to use a bit of common sense and say, if this guy is giving me $1 million out of the blue, why? Right? And if somebody else asks you, hey, why'd you get $1 million? Are you sure? What are you going to say? So if you can respond to those questions, I think that's kind of what it's asking. And at the end of the day, if you've ever been to Australia, you know how you have to declare everything, right? Milk, powder, all that. So, and their commercials always, when in doubt, just declare it. Same thing. Raise an STR in that sense.
Okay, we have 5 minutes left, so I think I will try and squeeze in one more questions. Last questions are, how to keep our donor engaged and encourage them to donate more?
Okay, I'll tell another story. Okay, last story of the day. So again, my experience at Salvation Army. So this donor, very important donor, was angry with us. He was really angry. He sent a letter. In those days, it was a letter. Sent a real nasty letter and say, I'm very unhappy with all of you. And I'm going to stop my donation. So what did I do? I went to see him personally, right? And I let him scold me for quite a while. And then I said, sorry, I promise to do better. I know what you want now. I will get it done. So I went back and I was forgiven and continued to donate. So I think that simple story is really to see a donor not just as a check, not just as someone to receive your appeal and that's it. He or she is a person, right, with with thoughts, with desires, with a vision, right? Are you fulfilling his vision of why he's donating? So I think it's more important for, again, I shared this somewhere else, is when you look at donors, you don't look at them as just a donor. What kind of donor is that person, right? You need to really understand and have a finer appreciation for who he or she is, and an organization as well. And I think that will help you to touch their hearts a bit more, if you show that you understand more about them than just the paycheck or just the donation that they are giving you.
I live by one saying, true results is the only true measurement of life. And in this case, results is a true measurement of charity. And the most sustainable way of engaging, encouraging your donor is to show them the results. So just a story. I also chair other charities. I chair a charity known as Junior Achievement Singapore. We are independent in Singapore, but there are many chapters all over the world. And this year we have been nominated for 2023 Nobel Prize. One of the things that we focus very much on is to make sure we can convey the impacts we make on young people's life. So we touch 22,000 young people's life. We do pre-test and post-test. That means we actually test them. What would they like? What do they know? What can they do before we engage them and start our program? And then we test them again after it's all over. So we have concrete results to show that we actually have impacted this person's life. This person's life has changed, has cultivated some new skills, is contributing back to society. And because of that, that is probably one of the reasons why we never really need to do any public fundraising program, because the volunteers feel so encouraged about the results, they end up becoming donors. And the best thing about it is our 2,200 volunteers go back to their own company and encourage their company and their colleagues to donate to us. And for lack of a better word, I tell people mine is like a multi-level marketing charity. Nobody make money, but our volunteer bring other volunteers, and they pay to volunteer their time. So let me repeat again, at the end of the day, prove your results, show your results, demonstrate your results, and that's the most sustainable way of having more and better quality of donors. Thanks.
I think that's a wonderful formula. Friend bring friend, I used to joke that you can come and, so you see a pretty girl and she's volunteering, so you just go lah. Go and join the event. Go for the wrong reasons, but stay for the right reasons. And it has worked before, right? So no, I mean, and to be fair, sometimes the way we see the world is not the same. So our perspective on things can be quite different. I also have a story to share. There's one time this Abeng wanted to go and watch a movie, and then he decided he brought 18 of his friends along. So the ticket person asked him, "Oh, how come so many of you?" He said, "Oh, you never see the sign? It says below 18 cannot enter."
Okay. Did that land?
It took them a moment, yes. But they got it. But I'm saying sometimes we are too caught up in the way we do things and the way we see the world. We see it, you must do it this way, you must bring in the funds this way. But many of our young people see the world differently. And I give you another, this is a true example. There was one time my boss told me, it was raining heavily, thunder, lightning, and he went to his daughter, who was about 5-6 years old, and said, "Do you know why we see lightning before we hear thunder?" You all know, right? It's got to do with the speed of sound, speed of light. She said, "It's because my eyes are in front of my ears." She's not really wrong, right? So I feel that very often, I mean, same thing in the media, sometimes you get hung up on one approach, one angle, but same thing with donors, they may want to support the cause, maybe they're not ready now, but it needs some time to build that relationship, so the money doesn't come straight away. And I think, like, my panelists have mentioned, if we build that relationship in time, you can also convince them to see things in a different way. And sometimes that will then translate into money. But if you think of money first, it often doesn't work. Think of a more long-term relationship. That friendship, at the end of the day, if I feel you're doing good work, there are good results, I will support you, right? So I think, yeah. Thank you.
You still want to tell some more stories?
No.
I think we reached.
Yeah, just last point. I'm so happy that all of you are laughing, because I think if If you're relaxed, we communicate better. Really, we do. The donors are happier when they are talking to you, and you're better when you engage donors. So everybody just relax and yeah.
Well, so last thoughts, quickly ask them. Just a sentence or two. What is the best way to communicate with your stakeholders during good and bad times? Just quick, 2 sentences.
Always be there. Always be contactable and always get back.
Just talk. I know it's a bit literal, but yeah.
I just want to deviate from the question to share with you one of my value statements. And it goes like this: the more you and I reach out to bless other lives, the richer and better our lives will become. And I think if your donors, your stakeholders share the same value statement, I think you will have a thriving organization. So the more you and I reach out to bless other lives, the richer and better our life will become.
So I qualify. Talk more.
So I hope you all learned a lot of, derived a lot of gems from these 3 panelists, put it into practice, and I think I thank you all for staying for so long, and I hope we really give you an interesting session. So thank you very much.